More than 800 students, teachers, and auxiliary staff at the Albertown High School in Trelawney are breathing a sigh of relief with the recent installation of a 20,000-gallon tank and other rainwater harvesting mechanisms at the institution. This alleviates the need to purchase water at $40,000 per load from Falmouth in Trelawney or from as far as Christiana in Manchester.
We are really grateful for this initiative, and I'm confident that it will serve to benefit us as teachers and the student body. We are thankful and we trust that the students and teachers will use it and be grateful.
This is an area where we have a lot of rain, and we are now going to be able to take advantage of this resource so that we can solve a problem that we have been having here for years.
The school's water storage capacity has been increased to 50,000 gallons. Commissioning the $4.5 million investment into service, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samudo, hailed the project as an investment in the future of the nation.
We will make the investments in the capacity of water storage right across the length and breadth of this country, especially in rural schools, to ensure not an hour of learning loss can be attributed to water supply.
The initiative was spearheaded by the Rural Water Supply Limited and included the laying of 350 feet of pipe, installation of guttering, and the donation of 8 black tanks and a pumping system. Meanwhile, the residents of Martha Brae in Trelawney also benefited from an upgraded water intake system. This initiative will allow the National Water Commission, NWC, to harness an additional 5 million gallons of water daily, increasing the overall production at the Martha Brae Water Treatment Plant from 80 million gallons to more than 11 million gallons.
One of the options presented was to expand the Martha Brae Water Treatment Plant, and it was accepted, and it was expanded by 5 million gallons per day. And the vision for the Martha Brae is that ultimately it can be expanded by a further 10.
Over in St. James, the students and staff at the Barrett-Town and the John Rawlins Success Primary Schools, along with the Spot Valley High School, benefited from a donation of equipment valuing US $15,000 from the U.S. Southern Command Humanitarian Assistance Program. The items donated included 3 multifunction printers and 3 interactive whiteboards. The donation was facilitated by the National Education Trust, NET.
This project is a collaboration between the Department of Defense and the Ministry of Education and Youth here in Jamaica. Projects like this empower students, empower teachers, and the community as a whole. The donation of smart whiteboards and multi-function printers symbolize the partnership and commitment between the United States and the country of Jamaica.
Hailing the donation as a boost to the sector, Regional Director in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Dr. Michelle Pinnock, says students will now have a better opportunity to be empowered through technology.
The Ministry of Education and Youth takes very seriously the technological improvements required in each school and understands that in order for children and young people to be prepared for their future, to make them future ready, we have to start in the Jamaican classroom. We believe in Western Jamaica through STEM education. Once we're able to motivate our young people, get them critically thinking, getting them collaborating, getting them communicating with others, then our creativity will take us to the next level.
Expressing gratitude on behalf of the schools, Principal of Barrett-Town Primary, Anthony Murray, says the donation will increase the capacity of the institutions to better deliver STEM education in the classroom.
For Jamaica schools to provide the first world and competitive students that we need so that they can match the global market. Our schools must be equipped with high-quality training equipment and resources to aid in the delivery of the curriculum. As such, your donation today of ITC equipment is a step in the right direction.
And that's all for the program. As usual, thanks for joining us on this episode of Western Roundup, where we take you from the corners of St. Elizabeth to the hilly terrains of St. Anne. Remember to send your feedback to jismobe@jis.gov.jm. Until next time, take care. Celebrating post-independence growth, implementing strategies for sustainable agriculture production, and charting the path to home ownership. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Marjorie Gordon. Getting the country's agriculture production to a sustainable level was a major focus for Prime Minister Andrew Holness last week. A strategy being applied is the build-out of irrigation infrastructure, including the Pedro Plains Irrigation Project. According to the Prime Minister, of the 200,000 hectares of farmland across the country, only 31 hectares have irrigation. Mr. Holness says work to expand the reach is being done through the Essex Valley and Southern Plain irrigation projects.
And those two projects will bring about 5,200 hectares of land under irrigation. That will move us up to about 18% of our arable land irrigated.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the recent staging of the 69th Denby Agricultural, Industrial and Food Show. To further improve operations and increase production, he announced a matching grant scheme for small farmers. It will be offered by the Agri Investment Corporation through the Southern Plains Agricultural Development Project.
This groundbreaking initiative is designed to empower and uplift small farmers by providing them with up to 80% of essential resources towards their farming enterprise.
Meanwhile,
the Minister of Agriculture has been tasked with coming up with a viable solution to this issue of predial larceny. There was already legislation in place for a special police force, agricultural police force, and the minister has been tasked with getting that legislation operational.
Mr. Holness is also urging farmers to use the National Animal Identification and Traceability System, NAITS, which allows farmers to track their animals. Addressing the nation on Independence Day, Prime Minister Holness said Jamaica was making steady strides to maintain the path of economic sovereignty. This, he said, was evident in our economic performance of 8 consecutive quarters of growth, low unemployment rate, and a reduction in the debt-to-GDP ratio, among others.
Our current economic position means that your government will have the fiscal space, that is, more resources, to provide services for you, our people, who are rightly demanding an improved standard of living for yourselves and your children.
He is urging persons to focus on the national and social developments that are taking place and not to be distracted by negativity and falsehoods.
It takes all of us to build this great nation, and if we are distracted or succumb to the noise around us, we will further delay our own progress and prosperity.
Among his duties at the 61st Independence Grand Gala, Mr. Holness presented veteran reggae group Morgan Heritage with the Jamaica Reggae Icon Award.
On behalf of a grateful nation, we want to say thanks to Morgan Heritage for keeping the Jamaica flag high with good music, uplifting music, inspirational music, culture music, conscious music.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness was also busy breaking ground for 113 houses to be built in Retreat, Westmoreland. The $907 million Sheffield Palms housing development is being managed under the NHT's Guaranteed Purchase Program.
These houses are targeted for persons working in the tourism sector, civil servants, law enforcement, teachers, and so forth. So once you are within that income bracket, you should be able to easily afford one of these units.
And bilateral relations were reaffirmed between Jamaica and Japan to explore further opportunities in trade and investment, climate change, and technology. And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your GIS News for Tuesday, August 15, 2023. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has strongly condemned the firebombing of houses in Gregory Park, St. Catherine this weekend. 11 homes were firebombed in Walker Avenue Saturday night, leaving 40 people homeless, 1 dead, and a resident hospitalized with burns sustained during the attack. Mr. Holness has described the criminal activity as a scar on the nation, saying it was an act of terrorism designed to spread fear and displace people.
To consider it a crime would be to treat it as...
Hi, good morning, and welcome to another edition of our post-cabinet press briefing. It's today, Wednesday, the 16th of August, and it's actually 8:03 a.m. We apologize for the late start. This morning, we have a special program for you. We have the Honorable Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams. We will also have a presentation by Dr. Christopher Tufton, Minister of Health and Wellness, and the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Labour and Social Security. Before that, though, we have a special video to present to you.
.5%. That's the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Jamaica. We are now close to full employment. As Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, this is the best news that our economy can have. It means that our economy continues to expand, but what it really means is that more Jamaicans have income. It means that more Jamaican families can do much better than they were doing before. We are building Jamaica.
Thank you very much. Very important statistic. Just to give you a little rundown of some more statistics. So youth unemployment is actually at 12%. In 2016, it was over 20%. We also have statistics such as road deaths are down by almost 14%, as well as economic growth has rebounded since COVID. And we'll have some more statistics throughout the program coming forward, especially from the Minister of Education and Youth, who has some very important updates regarding the education system. Before we go there, though, we would like to welcome all the representatives from the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, as well as the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I would like to thank you for attending PostCap this morning. Also want to welcome you, members of the public, and also members of the media, for taking the time. I now ask Minister of Education and Youth, the Honorable Favour Williams, to come and give her presentation. Minister.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge Minister Morgan, the Minister of Information. Let me acknowledge as well colleague Ministers Charles and Dunn, Permanent Secretaries, Chief Education Officer, members of staff of the Ministry of Education and Youth and at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, members of the media, all our school board chairpersons who may be online, principals, educators at all levels, Jamaicans near and far, good morning again. It is indeed an honor to be here at another post-cabinet press briefing. The Ministry of Education and Youth remains committed to ensuring a quality education for all Jamaicans. I'm also personally committed to the ministry's core values, and in the interest of accountability, transparency, respect, and care, I stand before you today to update the country on the matter of the education sector. And in particular, we want to look at different strategies that we've put forward to our boards and our principals as they seek to recruit and retain teachers in the sector. And so let me say to our school board chairpersons, I hear you. Principals, I hear you, especially in our recent meeting on Friday. Thank you for sharing. Teachers, I want to say to you, keep talking, keep messaging me, keep whispering in my ears on the school visits, because your comments are not falling on deaf ears. I hear you. Parents, I appreciate your concerns, and I hear you as well. If you will recall, during this similar period last year of heightened concern about teacher migration, I gave frequent updates to the nation, and we have been doing that again this year. So let me begin with that by bringing you the latest numbers that we have. If you look at teacher resignations, looking at the period January 2023 to September 2023, and yes, September is still to come, but we have gotten resignations for September. 427 teachers resigned. That is approximately 1.7% of the total teachers in the public system. When we compare that against a similar period last year, which would be January 2022 to September 2022, 1,538 teachers resigned, representing approximately 6.2% of the sector. We're in a much better place this year relative to last year regarding resignations, but also this year, a larger number of teachers will go off on their long leave of 4 months or 8 months. We have to put strategies in place to manage that as well. But we are delighted with where we are in terms of, as we look at the number of teachers that are remaining, that are retained in the sector. And again, just in terms of the numbers, January 2023 to September 2023, 427 teachers resigned based on our survey across all our regions. This is approximately 1.7% of the total teachers in the public system. When compared against the similar period last year, January 2022 to September 2022, that number was 1,538 teachers who had resigned, representing approximately 6.2% of the sector. So this morning I want to run through briefly some of the strategies we presented to our principals and school boards last week to ensure that we have a smooth opening of school. And so to begin with, there is a slide going on the screen, and I'll start with strategy number 1. School boards are empowered to take early recruitment decisions, meaning they don't have to wait on the ministry. Pre-approval has been granted for the replacement of teachers in clear vacancies and those in temporary posts funded by the Ministry of Education and Youth. Strategy number 2 would be the engagement of teachers on approved vacation leave, and I want to stress this because this year, we heard the cries of teachers who are eligible for their 8 months vacation leave. And you may say 8 months sounds like a very long time to be on leave relative to the private sector. But you have to understand why this is so. It is because those teachers would have worked for 10 years without taking any vacation. They accrue vacation, teachers accrue vacation at the rate of 2 days per month. And so if at 10 years, when you are eligible to go off on your 8 months vacation, if you are not approved to go off, you will not be accruing any more vacation days. And so there have been teachers working in the system who've been losing out on a benefit. We don't believe that's fair to the teachers. And so this year, having heard the cries since I've been at the Ministry of Education and Youth about this benefit that teachers are losing, we approved all the teachers who applied for their 8-month vacation leave, and so those teachers will proceed on their leave. But also, we have sought again from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to be able to have those teachers who are going off on their approved vacation leave to be their own replacement. That is, they can work in the system as teachers and get paid for that in addition to being paid for their vacation leave. This is a facility that's available to our boards, to our principals. Obviously, they have to make the offer to the teachers. If the teachers agree, they can do it. What is good about this as well is that teachers can teach at other schools. They don't have to teach in the schools in which to which they are, attached. They can do it in other schools. Principals as well, who are going off on their long leave, can be retained as well, but not as principal. They can teach in their school, of which they are a principal, or they can teach in another school. So that's available to them. Our third strategy is the extension of service for teachers scheduled to retire in this upcoming academic year. School boards may request the extension of teachers who are scheduled to proceed on retirement effective September 1, 2023 and beyond. They can make that offer to that teacher to keep on teaching in the classroom. We've told our principals, our boards as well, that they can engage part-time teachers. Approval has been granted for that. Obviously, they have to be in touch with the Ministry of Education and Youth. We've also allowed them to engage already retired teachers, not those who are going off, teachers who have retired since January of 2018. They can apply to have these teachers come back into the classroom as well. Our boards and our principals can engage pre-trained graduate teachers. By that we mean those in possession of at least a first degree in areas of expertise, and in particular, those areas may be in short supply. We're talking about math, science, and those subjects that they can engage those pre-trained graduate teachers. Additionally, our boards or principals can engage final year student teachers in recognized teacher training programs. Of course, they have to be cognizant of their schedule and be flexible, because they would still be completing their final year in teacher college. Again, special approval needs to be sought from the Ministry of Education and Youth. We implore schools to redeploy underutilized staff. When we look across the system, there may be teachers who are at their minimum of the sessions that they're supposed to be teaching. We implore our principals to make sure there's greater efficiency in our schools. We ask our principals as well in schools where they might be way out in the country and not able to attract teachers to merge smaller classes so that our children have access to teachers. They could use a blocked timetable approach, and our principals know what that is. It's about having all teachers who teach the same subject coordinate their timetable as well. We implore our schools to use information communication technology. We have a very ambitious program underway in terms of ensuring that our schools have adequate ICT connectivity. We're not totally there yet in terms of having all of our schools, but a large number, 50% plus of our schools have connectivity, and we ask them to use it as much as possible to help facilitate teaching and learning. We have recorded lessons, 1,238 lessons, broken down by early childhood, primary, secondary, even to the tertiary level. We have available lessons that can be retrieved from the ministry's video lessons catalog. Schools have access to the ministry's eHSN network, PBCJ, and eHSN YouTube channel. There's also access to a suite of self-directed materials such as JAM Learning resources, and the link is available if you check our website as well. Just to continue with the strategies, we ask schools to utilize partnerships for shared experience. So where schools are in the same quality education circle, we encourage them to do twinning so that they share the expertise that they have among themselves. Strategy number 13 is a new strategy that we've added this year, and it's called Partnerships with Virtual Schools. This innovative strategy is designed to provide schools with access to expert teachers using ICT. School administrators having had approval from the Ministry of Education to replace a teacher, but who may be unable to find a suitable replacement, can, upon request, be approved to engage in a contractual arrangement with one-on-one educational services or other virtual schools to access the remote/replacement teacher strategy. This particular strategy is called the Teacher Availability Solution that is offered by one-on-one educational services. The schools that avail themselves of it, and by the way, it's available to our secondary schools only, will benefit from a classroom-in-a-box device, an 86-inch interactive screen with internet connection, UPS for power backup, air mouse, dry erase horizontal movable marker board system, a guide in the classroom, and a tablet for the guide. The school will have access to expert teachers for multiple subject areas based on their needs, and even in cases where employed teachers are absent from work or are on approved leave, this facility is available to the school at no additional cost to the school. The cost will be borne by the central ministry. I just want to take a few minutes just to talk about the supply of teachers. Under the ministry's special scholarship program, 88 student teachers are expected to graduate from teacher training institutions to enter into the teaching profession. These new teachers will be bonded for a period of 5 years and include 40 teachers of mathematics, 16 teachers of physics and chemistry. We recommend that our schools or our boards contact the various teachers' colleges in order to gain access to these special scholarship students. We also have an arrangement with UWI, and that program is called Build Out or Science Teachers Program or Boost. 10 new graduates specializing in mathematics and science will enter our system, and these teachers would be available. Additionally, we are encouraging voluntary relocation of teachers in overstaffed schools. I know that our current legislation, current regulations have some restrictions on teachers transferring from school to school. However, there is a facility in place if you voluntarily relocate from a school that has plenty to a school that's understaffed. You'll be able to do so without losing any of your benefits. You do not have to resign from one to take up a position in another. And I just to run down just a couple more strategies in terms of the supply of teachers. We still have our relationship with Cuba, and this year we will be getting 68 teachers, and we want to pause to continue to thank the government of Cuba for this facility. These teachers will be employed to teach Spanish, chemistry, mathematics, and physics. And again, the number of 68 is higher than we have had in the past. Out of our teacher training institutions, we have specialist teachers who have completed their program of study. 1,123 specialist teachers should be entering the teaching sector come the new school year. I just want to say that how very pleased I was to note the large graduating class of social workers and behavioral specialists from Northern Caribbean University recently when I went to their graduation. It warmed my heart because I know the pivotal role that social workers play in our society. So I want to congratulate all those who've graduated with social worker and behavioral specialist degree. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, we continue to ensure that we have various strategies of flexibility for schools. And one of the things that we added this year, and we're very, very pleased about, is that we've created a jobs platform for the education sector, specific to the education sector. So teachers looking for job in the Jamaica, wherever the school is, they could go on that platform and do the search. And we'll take about a couple of minutes to have a member of my team present on it. Charlene will do so, but before she does, I want to continue to implore our principals across Jamaica to rethink how they support teachers by giving consideration to the following strategies: to elevate our teachers' voices, give recognition to the agency of the teacher, provide access to teaching resources. We want to say categorically that teachers should not be using their personal resources to procure teaching aids. We believe the Ministry of Education and Youth provides teaching resources to our schools, provides the funding for teaching resources. We want to ensure that our teachers are allowed to be as creative as they can be in our schools, and to encourage collaboration across different areas of the school, strong collaboration as possible. So I am going to stop here. I know there are a couple more strategies, but given the meeting we had on Friday with our principals, and the fact that we followed up with a bulletin to our principals, and these strategies are available on our website for those who may want to refresh their minds. Also, we have press kits for our media persons. I know we would have given you a lot of information here, so we made sure that we had some printed material for you that you can reference. And Minister Morgan, if you don't mind, Charlene will just take 2 minutes to talk about the jobs platform that we have launched this year, very significant addition to the education sector.
Good morning, everyone. Ministers here present, colleagues. I follow on the presentation or informative presentation from our minister about an exciting brand new strategy that we have put in place to support the retention of teachers and just the management of the system where teacher employment is concerned. I'm just waiting on the slides to come up. Right. So our exciting new feature is the job bank, our teacher recruitment portal. There we go. Yes, I'm excited about it because it speaks to the transformation that we are making and is a part of the transformation process. So we usually get our data manual and we wait on the regions, but now we actually have a system in place that we are able to digitize all of that process. With the job bank portal, the principals will actually be able to complete the entire process of teacher recruitment online. So this is what our recruitment portal looks like. Just let me settle down and get this slide to the right place. Yes, so this is what our recruitment portal will look like. It's a fast, easy way for finding teachers and jobs in our education sector. And the beauty about it, it is available worldwide. So teachers who are looking to return to the system, and they can actually find a job before they actually come back, so they know they're coming back into a post that they're able to continue to support our education system. And we know what a job bank is, what the education portal is. An online website, data file, or agency for matching persons seeking work with suitable job opportunities. Some of the things that our teachers and principals will be able to do: search and apply for job openings, post resumes. Teachers will be able to post their resumes, create a profile advertising themselves to potential employers, get a feel of the job and the remuneration, schedule job interviews. As I said, everything will be able to be done online. And I have a listing here of the things the features of our current application portal that we have online. So our two main target audience, teachers and our schools. So on the teacher side, the teachers will be able to create a profile of themselves. So they will actually be able to sell themselves online, what they are looking for, what their expertise are, their areas of interest. They'll be able to put that on in their profile. On the school side, the school will be able to now search for teachers, and based on the profiles, based on the interest, based on the area of availability that they have, they will be able to select from that pool of teachers, all in the digital space. One of the important features that goes along with the platform is that of communication. So once you create your profile, once the schools create their profile also, because it's also an opportunity for schools to sell themselves, because the schools will be able to, schools that are in probably rural areas that persons are not aware of, if there's a job opening on, and a teacher in Kingston would like to see that post and would like to take interest in that post, they will be able to get an idea of the school. So they don't have to travel, they can actually use that profile that the school will create. So again, the school now has an opportunity to attract from a wider pool potential employees. So this is what the platform looks like. On our landing page, we have 3 sections. First section, you'll be able to search, login, or register. Second section, you now be able to view jobs. So we have alerts that will be displayed in our second section there, which will show urgent jobs right as you go on. Then we have section 3, which is the view priority urgent vacancies also. So as I had mentioned, one of the dynamic part of it is the whole communication that takes place. So once a teacher creates their profile, they are able to search for a job, they find a job opening, they are able to apply for that job. That sends a communication to the school that is offering that job posting. And the communication is not just sent and is sitting on the portal, it actually goes to the email address that is assigned to that profile. So therefore, they get an alert on their mobile device in real time that someone is interested in the job posting. And it works both ways. If a school sees a teacher and is interested, they can send a message to the teacher, and that is delivered in real time. So that speeds up the entire process and gives it a more real time, more dynamics. We are also able to, capture more data in real time. And since we have put up our portal, we have had activity already. We go live on the 27th, but we have activity already because we had presented, introduced the platform to our principals on Friday, and we saw that it actually took traction at the same time. So I want to thank you. Thank you for listening, and you'll hear more about our job bank.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation. I think we should take questions for the Ministry of Education before we move into our next presentation by the Minister of Labor and Social Security, the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr. So is there anyone who wishes to ask questions of the Minister of Education and Youth? Minister Williams? you may attend up on the podium again. Naomi Francis, you may manage the questioning, please.
Good morning, Kimon Francis from the Gleaner. Minister, what are the preparations made for special needs students for this school year? How many shadows are available? What is the number of special needs teachers available for the term? And how many of them were part or among those who resigned?
Okay. Thank you. I know that there is an emphasis in Jamaica on our special needs students, and at the Ministry of Education and Youth, we pride ourselves in providing services for special needs students. I know that there is a branch, a division, a group at the ministry. Dr. Troop, could you come, because I know you have the numbers on the top of your head about what we do for our special needs students. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, ministers, PSs, colleagues. So to raise the special education in the ministry.
I'm sorry, Dr. Troop, not everybody may know. Though you're very popular, not everybody may know your role at the ministry.
Okay. Good morning again, colleagues. My name is Kassan Troop. I'm the Acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education and Youth. So as it relates to special education, that's a very important portfolio in the Ministry of Education. We see it as a thrust for equity, and we have a responsibility to respond to all the needs. It's a directive from our permanent secretary that no child that reaches out, or any parent that reaches out with respect to special education requests that we turn back. We must find the resources. In so doing, we have put together a special education unit in the Ministry of Education, and that unit is tasked to monitor all our special education schools, both public and private. That unit is tasked to work with our special education private educational institutions. We partner with them. We have 17 such institutions that we work with and 2 other organizations that we support. And in these institutions, we place students. At this point in time, I believe we have 719 students under the partnership arrangement for these students. And we do incur about $300 million a year to cover the funding cost to have these students access specialized services in these institutions. For our public education institutions, we have 10 public education institutions, and in some of our other regular settings, we have what we call pull-out special education classes. We have about 15 of those across the sector, and we do provide special educators in addition to the regular teaching staff tied to the enrollment of the school for those students who are being served. How are these students placed in these special centers? We at the Ministry of Education, we have a suite of diagnosticians, we have a suite of educational psychologists and clinicians, and our parents, they turn up through referral by our principals for these students to be assessed. That has been a very expensive venture for parents, and so the ministry took the decision in, I think, 2016 to staff the regions with these clinicians to make sure that parents can have access to these services so students can be served. So we do assess these students, and then we provide a report, a detailed report to the school and the parents. It's part of reporting about what we have observed and what is best for that child in terms of the learning trajectory and the support that that child needs, and then we put that in place in the schools, or we refer the child to an exclusive setting. That is an ongoing service. In addition to that, for special education, we do what is called accommodations. So our students who sit to our national assessment, they may need special services. They may need a writer, they may need a scribe, they may need large prints, they may need braille. We provide all those services every single year for our parents who require those services. For shadows, that's a service that we provide each year as well. And this is for parents who may need support for the children with toiletry, with physical movement. We have students who are self-injurious, they will hurt themselves. And so we have to put shadows in place to protect them, to watch over them, to care for them, and to support them in the teaching and learning process within the classroom. I believe with the request coming in, Minister, for this year, we may have about 500 shadows that we are compensating this year in respect to the services coming through for September. From time to time, persons will resign and parents will indicate to us, and then we work with the parents to replace these shadows. Parents will come to us to say, I have a particular person that I want to work with my child. Can you engage this person instead? We work with our parents in those regards, and we train those persons for them, and then we deploy them and monitor them, and we support them throughout the system. So those are some of the services that we provide. Books, that's a given. We have moved into digitized books for our special educators as well. They will have books that will sign for them, books that will have other kind of accessible features. And we moved throughout the pandemic, through a period of the pandemic, with UNICEF to respond to some of these needs that came up as a gap in our system as we were trying to pivot through the pandemic to make sure that no child is left behind. So we want to recognize UNICEF at this point in time in giving us that support in launching those digital resources for our students. I want to also recognize the Digital Foundation. They were first out of the block in making sure that we had devices, tablets and laptops for our students with special needs. Those were non-negotiable. They gave us the first 1,000, and those were specifically for students with special needs. And also the Ministry of Education procured other devices to make sure that those children were connected. So those are some of the things, Kimon, we continue to do for special education. But I just want you to understand, colleagues, that whatever those students need, it is a non-negotiable. Sometimes they force us beyond what we normally plan for, but we make it happen in the best interest of the child.
Thanks for that, Dr. Troop. Just stay right there. There's a quick follow-up. Checking the wait time for assessment for especially students who are autistic, as well as the speech and occupational therapy. A lot of parents complain that their children are not exposed to enough speech therapy and occupational therapy. How does the ministry respond to that?
Well, that is true, Kimona, increasing need that we are getting, especially for the autism cases. So we have been working with our parents. We have built out 2 key partnerships with SAV Inclusive in Westmoreland, and we are building out the partnership with Macam in Kingston. Those are 2 of our institutions that offer the occupational services, and we are working with them for our students to have access. We are also working with Genesis. They do also offer that occupational services. Best Care Foundation, they do offer. So we have been working with entities that offer, and what we do is to provide the resources. Either they need the therapists themselves, or we pay for the services provided by the therapists. The wait time sometimes is a little long because of where the persons are. These persons are under great demand in our country, and so we have to also wait on their schedule. So it's not a matter of funding, but we have to work with the schedule of these clinicians in the country.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. We have another question on this side.
Good morning. Mahiri Stewart with Nationwide News. Now, I understand that last time I was here, I asked a question regarding health and making sure that the students that come back to school in September may not be in a situation where they bring back a disease that they probably caught on vacation and it could spread. And I understand that there was supposed to be talks between the Education Ministry and the Health Ministry as regards making sure that when we bring children back into school into September, it limits the potential spread of not just COVID-19, but any illnesses. Is there any update on where we are with those talks?
Okay, I'm going to give way to our minister, and then I'll come back if needs be.
Right, and I'm happy that our Minister of Health and Wellness is here. Recently, he announced a program in Parliament in which all of us as MPs were allocated $4 million, $3 million to put on health fairs in our constituencies. And if you watch social media, you will see all MPs posting to say they're doing the health fair, and that's to help our children, in particular, who are going back to school with their medicals and immunization, and just to get a focus on the health message for our children.
Thank you, Minister. Any further questions for the Minister of Education and her team? All right, Minister Morgan.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Minister Favour Williams. Thank you for that very important presentation. We will now ask the Minister of Labour and Social Security to join the podium, as he also has some very important updates for the nation. Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Let me acknowledge colleague ministers. What a time for my voice to choose to go. It was good all morning. Yes, again, good morning to all ministers, Minister William, Tufton, Don Morgan, permanent secretaries, colleagues all. 4.5 is the number for the day. It's a very important number relating to our historic unemployment rate. And as the Minister of Labour, I think I start there, 4.5. And that's exactly the amount of minutes that Minister Williams has left me to do my presentation this morning. But no, again, a very good morning to all. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is the people's ministry. Myself and Minister Dunn and our permanent secretary and all of our team, we have the critical responsibility of delivering these important labour and social protection services to those amongst us who need it the most vulnerable in our population. And we respect that responsibility and know how important it is. Therefore, since taking up the helm, we have been focused on achieving our mandate and doing so in a timely manner. And that mandate, a big part of it, is to improve the efficiencies in our ministry. And we have a number of priorities that must be addressed immediately. Today I'll speak of 4 issues only, in a concise way. I'll speak about the improving of the service delivery. We're going to speak about the efforts to reform PATH. We'll speak about advancing the rights of persons with disabilities, and then we will speak briefly as an update on the issues relating to industrial security guards. Firstly, as it relates to the improving of service delivery, the first and most urgent priority surrounds the efficient and effective delivery of service to our clients. And this is in keeping with the government's service excellence vision. Over the last several weeks, myself and Minister Dunn and the team, we have visited parish offices across the country. And that's an ongoing process, but the goal of that is for us to have first-hand knowledge, engaging staff members firstly, engaging clients, observing the points of contact, and ensuring that we can evaluate and have a good understanding of the experience that our clients, the most vulnerable, are having with the ministry. This internal evaluation process is ongoing, and as we visit the remaining facilities over the coming weeks, we will be using that information gathered to ensure that all facilities are fully equipped and staffed to deliver service to the required standard. We're also working with our parish managers to ensure that they and the staff members are made fully aware of the emphasis on service excellence and customer relations. In tandem with our internal evaluation, we are implementing a more formally structured method of gathering customer feedback and providing a range of opportunities for our clients to engage with us. This will include, among other methods, having online surveys, exit surveys for persons who come in and interact and have any transaction, the installation of drop boxes at all of our customer contact points, and new access through text and email to ensure a range of opportunities for Jamaicans to tell us their recommendations, their suggestions, their critique, and for us to gather that information, all with the effort to improve the customer experience. We've also observed the need to have adjustments to the infrastructure. So in our visit to parish offices, we've identified a number of areas where there's need to expedite necessary repair and structural enhancements, and those have been advanced. The goal of these improvements is to ensure that we are building a more robust, fit-for-purpose organization that is adequately equipped to take care of your needs. Earlier this week, we also selected a project team to develop and establish a modern, centralized client care communication center, first of its kind at our ministry, and to expedite the completion of the installation of a voice-over internet protocol solution to enhance the ministry's telephone accessibility. And we expect that the installation will be completed by the end of August and to have the communication center established shortly thereafter. There's much more that can be said on that matter, but we will have further updates in the coming weeks. As it relates to the reformation of the Program of Advancement through Health and Education that you know well as PATH, my team has been tasked with turning the vision of transforming lives into a reality. A vital first step in achieving that mandate is to transform our systems to make them more responsive. I know that many of you who have interacted with PATH beneficiaries or former PATH beneficiaries, you may have heard of issues in terms of, or critique in terms of the system to get onto the PATH program. We've also heard, but we understand that PATH is the most critical piece of the government's social protection program, currently serving almost 300,000 vulnerable Jamaicans. And we are aware that there are some persons who should be receiving PATH benefits, but for some reason they've not been able to access those benefits. We have currently a system that allows for appeal and other processes, but we will be evaluating that system to make sure that in reforming the program, it is more accessible, simpler, and easier for those who need it most to be identified and to get access, so that we ensure we provide the best complement of services to the people who really need it. We've commenced the process by establishing a high-level task force to drive our innovation and transformation project, a very important project in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. We call it the ITP. And we have a defined timeline for this project, which will allow for the task force, which is chaired by me, deputized by my efficient Minister of State, who will be driving the process. And that task force will take the necessary steps to redesign, to restructure, and to reorganize systems in the ministry, including PATH, to ensure that it is able to admit every eligible family that needs the intervention to help them break the intergenerational poverty cycle. We will expand and enhance its provisions to first and foremost enable access to quality education up to and beyond secondary level, to provide interventions to increase human capital accumulation among beneficiary families, enabling them to seek and retain employment or pursue economic opportunities, and to gradually transition those families who have experienced significant improvement and are no longer in need of PATH. And that's a very important point, which we must highlight. The goal is to make sure that every Jamaican who is in need of the support, truly in need of the support, gets the sufficient and adequate support. but we hope and we don't expect that generation after generation path will be accessed by the same families. The goal is that if we have a generation being supported by path, you'll be so sufficiently supported that your children should be in a better position, having access to quality education and therefore a pathway to economic independence. We will engage all key stakeholder groups to guide the process and advise on best practices, including the National Social Protection Committee, which is chaired by the Planning Institute of Jamaica, other public and private sector partners, and members of the public. Our engagement process will include a full-scale public engagement through social media, town hall meetings in targeted areas, and targeted discussions with current and former beneficiaries of the program. So Jamaica, look out for us. We will be everywhere, using every platform to engage you, to ensure that you have a voice in this transformation of the PATH program. Moving on to the advancement of the rights of persons with disabilities, let me firstly congratulate the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities and just highlight our executive director as well, who's here, and indicate that on August 9th, 2023, we commemorated the 50th anniversary of the JCPD, the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, representing 5 decades of relentless dedication, advocacy, and progress in our history of advancing the rights for inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities in our beloved nation. I've noted that in spite of the significant achievements to date, we still have some considerable challenges, but all scientists like to solve problems. So I don't have a difficulty with the challenges. Myself and Minister Dunn, we are ready to take those on. More than 80% of the public spaces in Jamaica are still not yet fully accessible to persons with disabilities, including, before I'm asked a question, government buildings, public transportation systems as well, and recreation facilities. So the ministry, we are strident in leading collective efforts to remove these physical barriers that hinder full participation and inclusivity of persons with disabilities. And we encourage also private developers to also maintain these necessary standards. To this end, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security will be shortly launching a first of its kind accessibility checklist that was developed in conjunction with the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, and will allow for us to have across sectors a standard when it comes on to treating with persons with disabilities and the infrastructural requirements to do so. Additionally, we have completed a code of practice, Minister Williams, for education and training. And that will guide your educational institutions, our parents, and all persons involved in the education sector in terms of the engagement with our students and persons with disabilities, and to ensure that an inclusive environment is maintained. And this now is to be reviewed by the Aegis Chambers and then laid before the House of Parliament. The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities will continue to actively pursue the establishment of standards to reduce discrimination in access to public transportation and public buildings, and to establish monitoring mechanisms for compliance with the accessibility component of the building code by finalizing the requisite codes of practice and presenting those to Parliament incrementally over the next 3 to 4 years. Before I move on to security guards, there's one more important thing as it relates to persons with disabilities. I want to mention, as I see my permanent secretary's face light up, the Disabilities Rights Tribunal. And I should congratulate you, PS, and our JCPD team. Jamaica, once again, is a pioneer, the first of its kind in the Caribbean, where following Valentine's Day last year, for those of you who don't know, that's February 14th of last year, where we had the effective date of the act relating to disabilities. We now have the Disabilities Rights Tribunal, which has been established and assumes a pivotal role in our ongoing pursuit of a more inclusive and just society. The situation faced by individuals with disabilities in Jamaica are diverse and multifaceted. You just have to think about it, and you can understand. In addition to the barriers in accessing education, employment, healthcare, transportation, and other essential services, unfortunately, we still have discrimination, whether it is overt or covert. It remains a daily reality for far too many. And so this rights tribunal will truly be important in our pursuit as a ministry, as a nation, to pursue a more inclusive and just society by hearing and adjudicating on cases of perceived discrimination. I move on to the fourth and final point in my fourth and final minute. Yes, it's true, 4 minutes. Industrial security guards. I'd now like to address this matter. The majority of the 30,000 industrial security guards employed to private security companies in Jamaica are now engaged under an employer about. And your government has been able to advocate and actually execute in ensuring that we protect the rights of our security guards, despite the dislocation that it might cause in moving towards the location that is required for us to have the standards needed for our security guards. Since April 1st of this year, most security companies have sought to become compliant with the labor laws. In respect to complaints received from workers, the ministry has ramped up its inspection and intensified its support to the parish courts for the settlement of outstanding payments due to industrial security guards. On May 17th, we had a town hall meeting that was held to further engage with security guards themselves as well as attorneys and trade unions. Otherwise, the matters will then of the in new complaints from security guards since July of this year, which means that the transformation of that sector is occurring before our eyes. Recognizing that guidance was critical in the transition from the erroneous treatment of the workers as so-called independent contractors, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security conducted sensitization sessions with employers as security guards to ensure that the companies are in full compliance with our labor legislations. Having set now the platform to facilitate full compliance, any company found in breach of the requirements of the labor laws will be brought to books using the full extent of the law. The ministry will also continue its dialogue with the Jamaica Society for the Industrial Security this Thursday, I believe. Yes, Thursday, August 17th, to reaffirm our position as a government on the Joint Industrial Council and to increase the momentum for its establishment. We were to have some meetings, I believe, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but due to some exigencies from our other stakeholders, we were not able to meet them. But we are eager to advance these conversations, and it is our intention that the Joint Industrial Council will comprise representatives of security guards, employers, civil society, and key government stakeholders. Issues that will be up for discussion include the terms of reference of the Joint Industrial Council and priority issues to be addressed by the Council itself. A full most vulnerable country. We appreciate all of the recommendations we've been receiving through social media and otherwise, and we will continue to engage the entire country to make sure that we can achieve the goal of improving the delivery of service across the sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. And Minister Morgan, ahead of just having, as you would point out, Minister Tufton will take questions for Minister Charles Jr. Just to say congratulations once again to the Permanent Secretary, Colette Robert Risden, on receiving the National Honor Commander of the Order of Distinction. Ahead, though, Minister, of the questions, let's go to your new PATH campaign as well that the Ministry is rolling out.
The government of Jamaica, your government, is committed to guaranteeing social protection for our most vulnerable citizens. Through PATH, the Program of Advancement through Health and Education, we provide critical social assistance to needy households, especially those with children, pregnant and breastfeeding women, persons with disabilities, and elderly dependents.
Beneficiaries of the PATH program receive bi-monthly cash grants, back-to-school and tuition grants, and examination fee assistance. Participants are included in the Steps to Work program, the Ministry of Education's school feeding program, among others. Visit your parish office and apply today. Remember to bring your children's birth certificate, TRN, and a government-issued ID.
We want to help. We care. Apply today.
Thank you, Minister. And of course, that's one of the 4 points you raised earlier in terms of the updates you've given. So we have some questions from members of the media. We'll start off with JIS.
Morning, Minister.
Morning.
Chris Patterson from JIS. Could you speak to the timeline for the engagement process regarding the overhauling of PATH? And how soon will these additional persons begin receiving benefits?
So we have started the process already, and we have decided to take the quarterly steps. So we have set some objectives for ourselves for the next quarter, and we will be doing so throughout the year. We hope that the overhaul will be continuous, and we say that because in our discussions it's important for us to change the concept of customer relations in the ministry to be always improving. So the goal is not for us to set 6 months and then after 6 months we're all done. We have identified a number of issues such as the criteria methodology, and we hope that within the next 6 to 12 months we would have been able to settle that. But the philosophy and the concept should be a continuous engagement with our clients and with the staff members especially to have consistent improvement and growth in terms of how we deliver service.
Thank you, Minister. Let's then come to the Gleaner.
Minister, you mentioned the majority and most in terms of describing the benefits that the security guards are getting. Can you give us a figure for that? And also, what is the update on the probe launched into the living conditions for farm workers in Canada, well, overseas?
I'll have to get back to you on the specific figure, but my understanding is that it is a significant majority that is compliant. As it relates to the probe into the living condition of the farm workers, it is my understanding based on consultation through the management committee led by our permanent secretary and the liaison officers, that particular issue was settled. And that matter was settled perhaps within a week or two of the incident being published. Since then, we have engaged in an enhancement of the discussions with our liaison officers, a review through the management committee of the processes and the systems. And I personally, along with Minister Dunn, we have actually gone to the farm work division building, engaged with farm workers, and we continue those consultations with a view to gathering as much information as possible to really get an accurate perspective on what the issues are. And let me tell you why. What we found is that the farms are so expansive that you may have 100 workers on one farm, and they all have different perspectives and different views of how they see one or two liaison officers. So in that regard, we have had discussions with the liaison officers. We will be increasing the number of liaison officers. We've provided new pamphlets and brochures for workers to explain to them their rights. We have one that actually says, know your rights, and to explain to them how to contact us and how to report breaches. We actually have a situation now where we will be doing just mystery calls, calling persons randomly to get a feel of their own evaluation of their circumstances. And we have a training program for our workers that has been revamped, as well as for the liaison officers, as well as we are ramping up our orientation program. And so I had an opportunity to actually go and to consult and engage with some of the workers before they went off to the airport in asking them some questions. So the farm workers probe, as I said, it has been provided to me in detail, and so far, we seem to be receiving reports of, I'd say, positive reports. But that continues, and we expect that going into next year, we will continue to have those consultations.
All right, thank you, Minister. Mr. Morgan? We'll just...
Thank you very much, Minister Charles. Also thanks to Minister Favor Williams. At this point in time, he's not here to present, although I wish he would present. You have some good news for us, Dr. Tufton? Another hospital being built? Well, Dr. Tufton wishes to make a short presentation. I'd like to welcome him to the podium. Dr. Tufton.
Thank you very much, Minister, and good morning to everyone. So I just wanted to, before we announce and sign together with the Minister of Labour, my colleague, let me just welcome and say greetings to my colleague, Favor Williams, my colleagues Norman Dunn, and of course the Minister who just spoke. I just wanted to elaborate a little on the two fairly significant things that took place yesterday, because the government, through the Ministry of Health and Wellness, signed agreements equivalent to some almost $30 billion, $27 billion for medication through the National Health Fund, and a number of contracts were awarded over a 3-year period, and $2 billion for the regional health authorities associated with a particular agreement that is in keeping with our desire to see a more efficient equipment maintenance arrangement so that we can treat our patients in hospitals in a more efficient way and get the maximum use of those benefits. So on the first issue, there was a service level agreement between the ministry and the regional health authorities around medical equipment maintenance management, a policy that we have been working on for the past few years. And each regional authority, there are 4, were given $500 million to support the implementation of that policy. I do note that the media carried the story, and there was a front page item on one of the print media, which obviously highlighted the negative aspect of the challenge related to equipment in our hospitals. And it is true. I did commission a study a few years ago to determine what was the best approach to ensuring that our equipment are giving us the maximum life. And we found that it was not based on the existing policy, which was fairly ad hoc. And we have been transparent in outlining that 1,853 pieces of equipment for regional authorities, 15% deemed non-functional, 39 fairly functional, and 47 fully functional. If you put the 47 on the 39, clearly you get a much higher figure than the 47 that was quoted as with the impression that only 47 was working. It's not actually the case. It's closer to 80+%. However, of that amount, probably half is not as efficiently functioning as it ought to. So the ministry embarked on this policy, which really establishes a protocol for how the regional authorities, who are the managers of our hospitals and health centers, should approach routine servicing of our equipment, how they procure, the establishment of service level agreements, because up to this point, and this is a many decade approach, we were very ad hoc in what we procured. Some had service contracts, some did not. When things, minor issues had to be resolved by bringing people in from overseas, there was no agreement in the contract for training of personnel locally to service. And the truth is the taxpayers weren't getting value for money. And that's what the government has tried to correct. So it's a very positive development and should be viewed as such. And it will mean more efficient delivery of service for the staff, and of course, importantly, in terms of the patients. So I can field any questions on that. Just to add finally on that, there are 3 other service level agreements that we're working on. One to deal with things like air conditioning, elevators, and so on. From time to time, you hear that the elevator is down or air conditioning unit is down. We're dealing with that right now in about 2 hospitals, which is preventing surgeries and so on. And another to deal with buildings, roofing, and so on. So what we have, in summary, is a standard procedure that we're putting in place to accompany the 10-year strategic build-out and modernization of public health, which we believe will lead to more personnel, more technically competent personnel, and agreements that are a lot more solid to depreciate the value of our equipment over an appropriate time, but ensuring that it functions during that period. And I think that is positive for all concerned in public health. The second issue was the contracts by the National Health Fund. Now, what we have done is to negotiate with a number of, it's really a public tender and companies bid, and there's a very efficient team at the NHF. We all know that the NHF has won several awards for good corporate governance, and of course supervised by other agencies, the oversight of that process, which led to a conclusion of $27 billion being awarded over 3 years, 34 contracts, 27 companies, over 1,000 items of medication, drugs, to be purchased over that period of time. The figure could actually go up because from time to time we have to secure others. The beneficiaries, the real impact is 700,000 Jamaicans who benefit directly from the drug serve windows. We have over 100 of such, some public-private arrangements, most of them, of course, in our hospitals and health centers. If you were to add those who benefit from subsidies, maybe some of us in this room, then it's well over 1 million Jamaicans who benefit. Now, interestingly, and I want to say it because there is a perception in public health or in the populace, and certainly by some who are, who spend more energy looking at the critical of the system, which is fine, it's our democracy, that somehow the government is not responsive. And this is not the case. 7+ years ago when we took office, when I became Minister of Health, we were serving some about 350 to 400,000 Jamaicans through this drug serve window. Today it is 700 and counting. The amount that we have spent on drugs has gone up over 100%. In fact, 3 years ago when the last agreement was achieved, it was some 19 billion. Today it's 27 billion. And if you go back to the 7-year period, it's quite a lot more. Now, what it says, and I think it's important to note, is that we are responsive and we are sensitive to the sick profile of our population. And we do have a deteriorating sick profile. So that's one. But secondly, there has to be some concerns about the fact that increasingly people are demanding, and even at a younger age, medication for curing illnesses that they are developing. And it speaks to the issue of lifestyle diseases. The major increases are from things like cardiovascular disease, so hypertension, diabetes, renal issues, cancers, not in absolute terms, but in terms of cost. They said when someone is diagnosed with cancer, you're immediately looking at least 10 million Jamaican dollars of expenditure between treatment of one form or another. So I would say that we are demonstrating that we are prepared as a government to respond to the needs of the public. And this is very much manifested in the allocation of 27 billion. But we are also very concerned that our population is moving in a direction, and all the implications of that is unsustainable in several ways, from a productivity level, from a health and wellness level, from a happiness level, which means that a lot of other conversations have to take place, which is why we have launched the Know Your Numbers campaign to encourage screening, because early detection is a major response to trying to cauterize some of these issues. So all told, I think from a public health standpoint, things are improving in terms of our response, but we still have a lot of work to do. I want to also quickly comment, if I may, Chairman, before I go into this signing, on the recent discussions around hospital beds or the lack thereof, and the concerns that have been raised by some, the opposition included, that somehow we are accommodating inhumane treatment of Jamaicans who visit our hospitals. First of all, over the last 7 years, the government has done more than any other administration in my memory to improve the conditions of our health infrastructure. And if you look at the trajectory over the next few years, that level of improvement will expand exponentially. And I'm not exaggerating. You're talking about a $60 million US 6-story facility at Spanish Town. You're talking about the full restoration of Cornwall, which would mean more bed space, the new Western Child and Adolescent Hospital, the plans for Maypen, for St. Anne's Bay, and over 100 community health centers that have been renovated over the last 5 years to the tune of over $3 billion. And I could go on, but I won't. But suffice to say that we have to be careful that we do not identify a single incident, even without fully understanding the context and drawing conclusions of doom and gloom for whatever purpose. Maybe naivety, maybe inexperience, or maybe just mischief. I'm prepared to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and say maybe it's naivety. The reality, though, is that our public health infrastructure has been responsive, but the reality is that we're suffering from a chronic neglect over decades, which will take time, and all of us have to play our part in that. The issue at Cornwall Regional with the video that circulated is unfortunate from a number of perspectives. First of all, the context is that it is a section of the hospital which is a kind of holding area for social cases when we become overcrowded by more urgent, life-threatening cases that require inpatient care, and we have to assign them a bed. And today, Cornwall is over 100% occupied. A number of hospitals like that. That holding area does have facilities for persons to sit, maybe a reclining chair or otherwise. And the truth is some persons exercise the option not so to do, and that is unfortunate. So while we do not excuse away the need for monitoring and closer monitoring, which I've asked to be done at the management level, it is a function of some of the challenges around demand and the challenges around social cases in our institutions. We have at any point in time about 10% of our hospital beds occupied by persons who are not supposed to be there. They have been discharged, but they have nowhere to go. Their relatives have abandoned them, and they live in the hospitals. And the infirmaries are already overcrowded, and we have transferred a lot to our infirmaries. I work very closely with Minister Mackenzie. 10% of about 6,000 beds is, as you know, right, 60 or so. It's about 6,500 beds. In the western region, based on the recent numbers I have, we have over 100 social cases. And the western region has about 600 plus beds. So it's a struggle. I'm not saying it's not something we need to improve on. We are doing that by building out. But it is a struggle. And I think that context is important as we draw conclusions. And the government has demonstrated a lot of compassion, I believe, over time. But I continue to appeal to relatives that you must collect your loved ones when they are discharged. And I mean, if it's hard, let's talk about it. But, while I'm prepared to say that there are some cases that we have to manage and transition through the infirmaries because persons just don't have anywhere to go, I'm also prepared to say that there are some members who deliberately drop their relatives off, leave them. They do it during Christmas, they do it during Easter, and they treat the hospital as a holding area, a nursery, if you will. And it is a reality. And the reason why we know it's a reality is that when the unfortunate occurs and these patients pass, some of these relatives turn up asking for the death certificate to claim the assets of these persons. It is a reality. It's not a comfortable conversation to have, but it is a conversation that I think is needed in order to adjust moving forward. Okay, so the final issue, if I may, is the issue of signing an agreement. Now, in my sectoral presentation some time ago, that's in May, early May, I had announced a program called New Limb, New Life, where we decided, based on the data, to support those persons who have lost a limb, an arm, a leg, with giving them a subsidy towards replacement or prosthesis, an artificial arm, artificial leg, and work through or with the Disabilities Association through the Ministry of Labour. The Honourable Minister is here. We announced a $50 million Jamaican dollar subsidy, which will be supported through our compassionate care program. And that process has begun in that a number of persons have been inquiring, have signed up. They work primarily with the Sir John Golding Institute, which is the facility that deals with trauma related to limb loss. And today we want to sign that agreement with the Minister and the Ministry of Labour through the Disabilities Association for its implementation. The Ministry of Health will not determine who these beneficiaries are. We'll hand that over to the Disabilities Association through the Ministry of Labour because they currently have a database, and that database is a revolving base. That's where persons with disabilities go. The benefits for us, firstly, we have to show compassion to those who require and deserve a second chance. And our compassionate posture as a government around the disability the community with persons living with disabilities is something that we want to demonstrate because we think it is worthy of that level of effort. Secondly, from a public health perspective, over 80% of persons who lose a limb, and I think it's closer to 90%, is linked to a medical condition, not just trauma. At first I thought it would have been accidents, car accident, bike accidents. It's actually linked primarily to diabetes, which is brought on sometimes by various other things, hypertension and so on. So lifestyle, circulation issues because you have diabetes. So that's a major health concern. So part of our intention is to give those persons a second chance because they are now in treatment. They have to control, otherwise they will pass. I mean, that's just the ultimate end. Help them to reintegrate into society because there is a lot of mental health issues associated with losing a limb. Help them to become more economically viable because they would have now been restricted by a loss of a limb. Give them a sense of hope, but also, very importantly, highlighting the consequences of lifestyle diseases, the consequences of diabetes, and in some instances, even using some of these persons who volunteer as testimonials to enhance a more health-seeking posture by the population generally, a population that clearly has a sick profile, as I had outlined earlier. So there are multiple benefits of this program, and we look forward to working with the ministry, the Minister, the Disabilities Association, to advance this in the months to come. So promise made, promise kept. Thank you very much. We can sign on. Thank you. Sit here?
Thank you very much. I'll now ask the Minister of Labour and Social Security to join the Minister of Health and Wellness. And I suspect your State Minister and your Permanent Secretary, do we have a representative? Oh, Dr. Tufton, you'll be able to take some questions after, right? Okay, my apologies. Our friend from the Gleaner. Right. All right. Do we have a mic? All right, so can we, before you leave, can we have some presented shots of the MOU with your team? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Tufton. And thanks to the team. We'll have some more opportunities for pictures after. But I suspect that members of the media would like to ask you some questions. You may come back.
Yes. Thank you, Minister. We do have one from this side of the room, so let's do that.
This is for all the ministers, actually. Have any of you been contacted by the Integrity Commission any investigation into illicit
We do not comment
enrichment?
on Integrity Commission matters.
No, Minister, it's a question, though, and Jamaicans want to know.
No, you want to know.
No, Jamaicans want to know, and I'm a Jamaican.
All right, hold on.
Yes.
The Integrity Commission is an organization that is independent to do its investigation. We have taken a decision months ago that government members will not comment on Integrity Commission matters in the public domain. We have experience of recent conversations of matters between the state and the Integrity Commission, and there was a clear policy decision that we will not, even before this event or this conversation, that we will not comment on Integrity Commission matters. So no member of the government will comment on Integrity Commission matters.
But to who was this communicated, and can you allow the ministers to decline to comment?
There's a policy decision.
From Cabinet?
Yes, there's a policy decision that we do not comment on the Integrity Commission. We do not comment on a creature of Parliament that is overseen by Parliament as Cabinet ministers and as members of the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We do have a question for Minister Tufton now. All right, 1 second.
I'm happy to comment on public health. Just ask. Anything to do with public health.
Minister,
Yes.
will there be a comprehensive approach involving all of government regarding the problem of social cases in hospitals?
Well, I think it requires a holistic, whole of government approach. And in fact, the government has been working together in a number of ways to coordinate the response. I earlier outlined that we have worked closely with the Minister of Local Government, Minister Mackenzie. In fact, the Ministry of Health and Local Government have jointly financed the expansion of a few infirmaries, Spanish Town being one, where Spanish Town Hospital was literally overrun by social cases, and we had to add a new ward at this Spanish Town Infirmary and relocated those persons, and also have been, if I'm not I stand to be corrected, but I believe the Ministry of Health is still offering or giving support in terms of the employees who man that area of the facility. And we have done some others. We did it in Trelawney. We have 30 social cases that have been relocated from Cornwall Regional to this Trelawney Infirmary. And it goes on. And every day we talk. We're doing something in Westmoreland with the municipal authority there. So the local, once the person is designated, because there is a file, there's a case file that is written up on the individual. Once clinically they are qualified to be discharged. And once they are officially discharged, the social case file is determined whether they have relatives, whether they are a genuine social case. Some instances we investigate and try to find the family members. In cases in the past, they have been dropped off to family members only to be brought back. In mental health, it's a big issue. The Bellevue Hospital has about 700 plus residents, 500 of which are social cases, designated because they could easily be treated from home, but have been abandoned. So there is a huge society problem which we have to recognize. Now, I had announced some time ago that we would look at pursuing legal action against family members who abandoned their relatives when that evidence was there. And we have been waiting for a definitive position from the Attorney General's office. The indicative position has been that we may not have jurisdictional responsibility to pursue the matter at that level. And it may mean legislative changes, but I have not gotten that firmly as yet, which is what has prevented us from going to the courts already, because I had queued up the team. We were willing to outsource it to a legal team. And I just want to say, it is not an attempt at targeting the victims, who are the people who have been abandoned. It's an attempt of recognizing the responsibility of their significant others, whether it's their children or otherwise, especially in the case where these persons have assets. Because remember, a lot of them have assets. They have their house, they have land, they have pension that is coming to them, and it is utilized by their relatives or significant others, whoever those are, not to their benefit. And if you talk to some of them, and I have a number of them, and they give you the history of where they're from and who their relatives are, you fully appreciate, or you appreciate a lot more the real dilemma we face. But again, we haven't been able to pursue that because we haven't gotten a definitive position. Now, beyond that, there is a mental health challenge around some of those cases, and we are trying to expand our community outreach around the treatment of mental health. We have added a number of additional personnel at the community level to do visitations and so on, vehicles to support it. But it's a growing problem also. So yes, it's an all-of-society approach, but we drive that program because it falls under public health, of course. Any other?
I see no further questions, Minister. So, Minister Morgan,
thank you.
Over to you. Thank you, ministers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tufton. Do we have any more questions? Sure. From Kimon.
Seeking a quick update, Minister, on the ATI reform process.
Oh, thank you very much for that opportunity. So we, as updated last time, the government is very serious about the ATI reform. There was a joint select committee that was held about a decade ago, but we felt that those conclusions are a bit dated, as it was over 10 years ago. So what we have asked is, as Minister with responsibility, I've asked the Information Division, when I just became Minister a year ago, to start work on it. Since then, they have submitted documents to the Attorney General's Department for determination, so we can make a submission to Cabinet, so we can have another joint select committee for the ATI. The reality of it is that the government or the state's legislative process is very, what's the word? It takes some time. So, but I can assure the public that we're doing some work on it. It is our hope that we can get it out within another few months, but I cannot make such a commitment as I do not control all the levels as it relates to this matter. So there is work being done on that. All right? Any other questions before we close? All right. A marathon post-cabinet press briefing. I would really like to thank the ministers who came here today. Minister Favour Williams, who started us off, Minister Pernell Charles Jr., and Minister Christopher Tufton, as well as State Minister Dr. Norman Dunn. I was going to say Professor Norman Dunn. I would also like to thank representatives from the various ministries. I really don't remember everybody's name, but I want to really appreciate all the top-level management and support, as well as those from the media who have come and the various government entities, such as the Disabilities Foundation, who have been here with us this morning. I also want to thank members of the media who came here. Really appreciate your attendance at Post-Cab. Really thank you for the support that you have continued to give Post-Cabinet over the last several months, and also the support staff from the Jamaica Information Service and the Public Broadcasting Corporation, and here at the Office of the Prime Minister, and especially to our viewers who continue to stay tuned to us every week. Until next week, another Post-Cabinet press briefing. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.
Hi, everyone. By now, you would have heard the great news. Jamaica's unemployment rate is 4.5%. That's the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Jamaica. We are now close to full employment. As Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, this is the best news that our economy can have. It means that our economy continues to expand, but what it really means is that more Jamaicans have income. It means that more Jamaican families can do much better than they were doing before. We are building Jamaica.
The government of Jamaica, your government, is committed to guaranteeing social protection for our most vulnerable citizens. Through PATH, the Program of Advancement through Health and Education, we provide critical social assistance to needy households, especially those with children, pregnant and breastfeeding women, persons with disabilities, and elderly dependents.
Beneficiaries of the PATH program receive bi-monthly cash grants, back-to-school and tuition grants, and examination fee assistance. Participants are included in the Steps to Work program, the Ministry of Education's school feeding program, among others. Visit your parish office and apply today. Remember to bring your children's birth certificate, TRN, and a government-issued ID.
We want to help. We care. Apply today.
Hi everyone, by now you would have heard the great news. Jamaica's unemployment rate is 4.5%. That's the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Jamaica. We are now close to full employment. As Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, this is the best news that our economy can have. It means that our economy continues to expand, but what it really means is that more Jamaicans have income. It means that more Jamaican families can do much better than they were doing before. We are building Jamaica.